things came to a head. I think it was Friday, I think it was like the last Friday of January. I don't remember, but I do remember it was the 27th that I tried to make a video for you guys about everything that was going on in January, and it was like a 20-minute long video. This is gonna be like a 20-minute long video too. And in the end of the video, I said, well, hopefully in my next video, I won't be having my little girl in my arms, and that's exactly what ended up happening. And it was just a couple of days after that I ended up going to the hospital and being admitted to the hospital for 2 weeks. And what happened was, the day before, I knew I was going into preterm labor, but at that point, the doctors were clearly irritated with me because I had been to see them so often, and they couldn't find anything that was wrong with me. Like by the time I got to the hospital, my symptoms were like drastically lower because I was able to always drive myself to the hospital. I never had anyone else drive me to the hospital. And so by the time I got there, it's like I wasn't as sick anymore. Like my bleeding would almost stop and the contractions would almost go away. I was always really, really sick at the house. That's when I would be the sickest. And occasionally at work, I'd get sick spells at work. But mostly it was in the house. When I leave the house, things got a little better. So it was, I think it was a Friday or something like that. I got really sick. I knew I was going into preterm labor, but I was being really stubborn about going to the hospital about it. So I suffered the entire day, and like I was in bed all day. Like I think I might have called out of work. I was in bed all day. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't get up to feed myself. I couldn't get up to use the bathroom, barely. Every time I talk about this sort of stuff, I start to hear things in the house. Here. I don't know what that was. Something was in the kitchen. Here. There you go. No? Okay. No? Anyways. So, I could barely get up to use the bathroom or take a shower. Luckily, the shower has like a little seat in the stall, so I sat down to take a shower, and I had to sit down to dry myself off. I couldn't even bother to put clothes back on. I just got back into bed and just cried in pain. That's just how it was. And then the next day, I had to go to work, and I was like, I don't know how I'm supposed to go to work like this. And I was just laying on the couch. I had my work clothes on, and I made myself up as much as I could, as miserable as I was. And I had the lamp on. It was really dark in the room. I didn't have the curtains open, and the whole house was dark besides the lamp. I had nothing else on, and I was just sitting here crying in pain. And I had to use the bathroom, so I went to go use the bathroom, and I couldn't even pee. That's how bad the contractions were getting. I could not pee. So I called. No, sorry. I couldn't even pee. So I came back in. I was bawling. I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I needed to go to the hospital. I didn't know if I could drive myself to the hospital at this point. And as I was laying here, stop. As I was laying here, I had the urge or felt the need to look up. So I did, and my eyes were drawn to the hallway. And immediately I saw something. I saw the shadow in the hallway standing just out of reach of the light, and it was staring at me. It was completely featureless, but I knew it was staring at me. And it would peek over to the corner and then like hide away. And it would peek again and hide away. I was like, I was petrified. I didn't feel like it was evil. I never got the impression at all that this thing was evil or it meant me any harm. To me, it just looked like, what are you doing? What's wrong? That was the impression that I got. I got the feeling that it was just a spectator, just watching what was going on in the house and what was going on with me. That's the impression that I got. So I was still terrified, even though I did not get the feeling that it meant me any harm. I was terrified because this is like a 7 foot dark mass thingy staring at me in a very, very vulnerable time in my life. I'm about to like have a baby, like at 29. It was this at this point. It was 31 weeks. I was almost 31 weeks at this point. So I grabbed my phone and I called my mom, who is the only person that I know of that like because I don't have any friends. I'm a lonely person. She's the only person that I can talk to about this sort of stuff that actually believes me. Um, and I told her what was going on, and she convinced me to go to the hospital because it sounded like it was really, really bad. And I was like, okay, mom, I will go to the hospital because I need to. But that was not really the reason why I called you. The reason why I called you was because there is a shadow person in my hallway. And she goes, of course that'd be the reason why you would call me. You need to go to the hospital. She lives too far away, so she couldn't have made it here in time for me to go to the hospital. I didn't have anyone else to take me to the hospital, so I drove myself. Um, and when I got there, they realized immediately that I was going into labor. I was going into preterm labor. I was bleeding again. I was having contractions like every 2 minutes. There were strong contractions. Well, at first, they couldn't pick up any contractions because they put the monitor in the wrong spot on my belly. So they came in after 20 minutes. They're like, are you even experiencing any contractions? And I'm like, yes. Yes, I fucking am. Are you seriously not picking up any damn contractions? I'm sorry, but it was bad. And they're like, oh, okay. Well, here's a little thingy. Here's a clicker. Click it every time you feel it. And then they moved it. And then they immediately saw, like, she, like, pressed my belly because I was having a contraction at the time. She pressed that on my belly. She's like, you are having contractions. No shit, I'm having contractions. So they fixed the monitor up. And they noticed that, you know, her heart rate was being affected by the contractions. And that I was having them 2 minutes apart. And they gave me some medicine to try to stop the labor. It was not working. And they did a vaginal ultrasound to see how my cervix were, and I was dilated 2 centimeters, I think. And before then, when I was going to the hospital the first time around, my cervix was shortening and was thinning and funneling, and but they weren't dilated. And within like 2 days, I believe they had dilated to 2 centimeters. Anyways, so they decided that they needed to send me over to a different hospital because the one that I was at did not have a NICU because they thought I was going to deliver her that night. And they didn't have a NICU for such a very young baby who's obviously going to have some sort of complications from being delivered this early. So they got the EMTs coming around, and when they were transferring me over to the stretcher, my water broke. They did not believe me when I told them that my water broke. They thought, I guess, because I said, oh, I think I peed myself. And they literally said, oh, did you pee yourself? I'm like, no, my flippin' water broke. It just feels like I peed myself. It just got really wet, okay? My water broke. And they did not believe me until 2 hours later because it took us 2 hours because they decided to go through the town, which was very busy at the time. Took 2 hours to go to the hospital and to be admitted to that hospital. I told them that I think my water broke. They did the test. My water broke. And they were able to stop the delivery. Like, they were able to stop me from contracting to the point where I was going into labor and delivering. And I was able to hold off for 2 weeks. And during those 2 weeks, they did all these tests that you would think the other doctors would have thought to do or would have caught on. beforehand, because the stuff that they found out was stuff that I should have known way way before shit happened. So it's kind of strange that it just came out of nowhere. You would think the other doctors would have picked it up, but I had a complete placenta previa, which basically means that my placenta was in the wrong spot. It was covering my cervix, so that eliminated any possible way of having a natural birth. And it also can cause complications because they say, I guess, like, if it's in the wrong spot like that, it can attach itself too strongly to the uterus, which can cause hemorrhaging. If, like, when it detaches, like, sometimes you have to have surgery and to get it out properly and such like that. And they did blood tests on me, which you think they would have done at the other hospital. And I had an extremely low platelet count. And they asked me, "Do you have a history of this?" And I'm like, "No, I've never experienced a nosebleed in my entire life until I came here to this hospital." So, and the low platelet counts just means that my body is unable to clot efficiently, which made it very, very dangerous to have a natural birth or to have a C-section, because if my body was not able to clot, I would hemorrhage and I would die. I'd bleed out and die. So that was very dangerous. And then my water broke, and it leaked really bad a couple of times, like within the first week, and then it kind of like eased up because I guess the placenta was covering the cervix. So nothing, like, there wasn't really any gushing going on after a while. And the bleeding stopped because I was on complete bed rest. I was not allowed to get up for shit. For like the first 3 days, I was so swollen up because I was just in bed, just laying there going, "Yeah, I'm a zombie. This sucks. This so sucks."